Well done, Chris, and thank you for your service. Now to tonight's guest. Let me see here. Let me see if I can introduce her the proper way. Our guest tonight is a Louisiana firecracker, an unstoppable ball of energy whose music blends Cajun tradition with pure joy and infectious spirit. She began playing violin at 4 and performing Cajun music by 8. By 15, she had signed a record deal and gone on to release acclaimed albums. She's lit up stages from Jazz Fest to international festivals, appeared in Disney Channel movies, narrated the Katrina documentary Hurricane on the Bayou, and was introduced into the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame in 2020. A proud cultural ambassador, she's even represented Louisiana in the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade with my buddy Alex on this. And now she's set to release her new single Before Katrina, which is produced by Dolly Parton's longtime collaborator, Kent Wells, on August the 22nd. No, not this Friday, next Friday. So let's go ahead and bring on Miss Amanda Shaw. What's up, Amanda?
How's it going?
Doing well. Happy belated birthday. You just had a birthday last week.
I did have a birthday last week. It's like, what is it? It's like the 10th anniversary of like my 25th birthday. That's what we were celebrating.
that's one way to look at it. And before we get started, I have to show you I was walking through my studio here earlier, and I've got magazines laying around, and I looked down and I was like, wait a second, we're gonna have her on the show tonight.
Yeah.
So the Louisiana
gosh,
Future song.
I love it. Yes, from one of my favorite Louisiana festivals.
That's right. What festival was that from?
That picture is from Jazz Fest.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So everything good with you?
Everything is so great. I'm here in Nashville right now. I've been working on music, I've had sessions, things like that. So it's been a crazy busy time, but it's good. It's a good time for music. It's a good time for Louisiana music. And I love it. I love sharing Louisiana music everywhere I go. So, that it just warms my heart.
That's right. Well, we appreciate you jumping on. We appreciate you being a part of this Louisiana country music thing that we're doing. I know I've only got you for a few minutes. I want to respect your time. So let's go ahead and dive into some questions that I have.
Oh, I love it. I'm excited.
So you started playing fiddle at just 4 years old. Like, how does that even happen?
Well, I was watching TV and they showed an orchestra. They showed the violin, and it was truly love at first sight. Nobody else in my family plays music. I don't come from a musical family, so it was just a chance thing. And then we lived in Hammond, Louisiana at the time. My mom took me to Southeastern because it was 5 minutes from our house. We lived about 5 minutes away, and there's a great community music school there. And my mom took me there to go get lessons, and that's it. As they say, the rest is history. I started taking violin lessons, and then when I was like 8, 9 years old, somewhere in there, my mom and dad started taking me to like the Fadodos down like in New Orleans, or they have like Fadodos down. They used to have a place called Michal's. There's Mulots is still down there, and I just loved it. There was some on the North Shore. They get North Shore Cajun dancers at the Abita Opry. My parents used to take me there to go watch the dancers, watch the Cajun bands, and I just loved it. I loved the energy of that music. It connected with me. A lot of that music too, I think, came from, the culture there. It's so in the early, 1900s, that folk music was very isolated. All those folks who spoke, Cajun French. They had come from Canada, and they really only had each other, and they only had their community. And so a lot of those songs are about how like life is hard, but it's joyful. Even though life is hard, it's about finding the joy in life. And that sort of messaging really connects with me because, and I feel like that's a thing we can all relate to, even though, obviously our struggles are different now, whether it's, being online and, comparison, and things like that, social media, and we're constantly out there hustling. Life is different now. The struggles are different now, but the finding joy in life that's constant, and it doesn't matter what your struggles are. It's about finding the little joys in life, whether it's, going to go see music with friends, writing a song, and, whatever it is that brings you joy. Good food. That's something we in Louisiana know all about, having a good meal with friends, So I think it's about really appreciating those little joys in life. And I feel like that's the core of what like Cajun music is. And honestly, like Louisiana culture, I feel like that's like a core piece of who we are as people. It's like coming together all the time, finding reasons to be together, come together, whether it's Sundays at your family's house, festivals, whatever it is. And I love that. I love being a Louisiana girl.
I love it. I told you guys she was. I told you guys she was uh, promoting the culture of Louisiana. She's been doing it a long time. She's passionate about it. I'm going to ask you a question that's not even on my notes here, but it just made me think of it because people ask me this, and I give answers, but there's no more appropriate person to ask this to. But what is the difference between the violin, playing the violin, and playing the fiddle?
That's actually a good question. Actually, there's really no difference. It's technically the same instrument. Four strings, a lot of fiddle players will draw. I had coffee with another fiddle player earlier today, and we were talking about it. But drop tuning, sometimes you drop tune in folk music, Cajun music, bluegrass music, that sort of thing. But I'll tell you the best answer I ever heard to that question, Dennis McGee, famous Cajun fiddler, who is, him and they're basically the godfather of like modern, fiddle Cajun fiddling. And Dennis McGee was once to ask the difference between a violin and a fiddle, and he said the difference between a violin and a fiddle is that a violin is carried in a case and a fiddle's carried in a rice sack. The most Louisiana answer you could come up with,
Look, I don't have anything to do with the editing side of this, but I guarantee you that's going to be one of the sound bites that comes out of this. I'm
I
going,
love
I'm going to
it.
go ahead and predict that. That's the best answer that I've ever heard for it. That's why I wanted to give you the chance to answer that.
Yeah, I
Um,
love it. I love it.
so you just had your 1 year anniversary of moving to Nashville. You performed all over the world representing Louisiana. What made you want to make that move to Nashville?
Well, I started coming to Nashville a couple years ago and working with Kent Wells, who's Dolly Parton's producer. And first of all, I don't know of a better excuse to really get off your butt and do anything than if Kent Wells and Dolly Parton's, musical director and producer calls you, you say yes and you get on a plane. I mean, that's really literally what I did is I met Kent through a friend, and I literally like the next week like hopped on a flight. Like I'm talking about I bought a round trip same day. I didn't even book a hotel. I flew in like at 9 a.m. I just wanted to meet the man. I've been a fan of his work ever since he produced everything like in the 90s. Yeah, I had so many of his records of Dolly's. He did the Backwoods Barbie record. He worked on the bluegrass record, The Grass is Blue. I love that record. So he's worked on so many of her albums as a musician, as a producer. So I've been a fan of his my whole life. So if nothing else, I was like, well, I just got to meet this man, even if we never even worked together. Like, I'm just such a fan. I just want to shake his hand. So I literally like when I met him through a friend, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be in town next week to visit friends. I had no friends in here in Nashville. I just was like, I was looking for any excuse just to meet like an idol of mine. And it turns out, they say, you're not supposed to meet your idols, but in this case, it's totally wrong because it far exceeded like any dream of mine in that not only was he a great person and a great guy, but as we got to know each other and I came up a few times, I came up that time, I came up quite a few times like that where I just round trip where I'd come in for the day and I'd go to his studio, we'd look at my work, and not only has he become like a friend, he's become a mentor, and like always is encouraging me to keep going, is a fan of my work, and has come out to see me play several times and like will be front row cheering me on, and I'm like, oh my god, what is life like? I can't even believe this, and it's an incredible thing. And not only that, but we shared a lot of stories about how in the 80s and 90s he'd be touring with Dolly, and if they had a chunk of time off from the road, him and his buddies, they're on tour, they'd take a trip to New Orleans and they'd go see, George Porter and John Cleary, because, New Orleans is such a great music town where you can see acts like that on a weekly basis. You can just pop in and see them playing at the Maple Leaf or Chikiwawa or wherever, and Tipitina's. So we swapped a lot of stories. So not only did he like not not pressure me to be something that I wasn't, but he truly encouraged it. And I was so, because he appreciated the music that I come from, my roots from Louisiana. And I'm so grateful for that, because when you come to a place like Nashville, there's so many talented people here. They're talented musicians, talented songwriters, talented singers. I mean, you name it, you can name 20 other people in line in front of you that are more talented than you at any given time at anything that you do. And to have your idol tell you, no, keep going, you're doing something right, is an incredible feeling. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And yeah, about a year ago, I made the commitment to try to live in two places, which is, I know, like a crazy thing, a crazy thing to do. So for all my Louisiana people who are tuned in right now, don't be afraid. I'm still a Louisiana girl. I have an apartment in Metairie, Louisiana, and I have a place here in Nashville. And the struggle is real. The struggle is so real. I was looking for a top of mine the other day, and I can't find it. I don't know in what state my shirt is, but it's somewhere, and I hope somebody's enjoying it, because I've been up and down I-59 who knows how many times.
Well, that's one of the things that I was curious about is somebody like very deeply rooted in Louisiana culture. How do you balance bringing that authenticity into a city like Nashville that already sort of has its own musical identity? How does that blend work?
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress for sure. Both are great music cities for different reasons. And I think seeing them for what they are and appreciating each city for what they are and what they bring, I'm so grateful to have been raised in a place of tradition. New Orleans is all about tradition. We're the birthplace of jazz and a hotbed for blues, and that's the community I really came up in, was the New Orleans music community, although I've played all over Louisiana. And we're just so deeply rooted in culture throughout the state of Louisiana. And we're so great at honoring our traditions. We keep up with, and honoring the places that we've been, versus Nashville is a place that is like constantly, like, people are putting out new music. It is so fast paced, and it's like, I've had to learn some things real fast. It's a very different place than Louisiana, because everybody's going somewhere and got something to say and got something to do. And so that's really cool too. It's really inspiring to be around so many people from like East Tennessee that grew up playing bluegrass music. I have such an appreciation now that I've been here working for the last couple years for the folks who play bluegrass music, because I feel like it's sort of like our, our long lost brothers and sisters in Louisiana, and that they also, it's just their version of it, their version of sad songs and happy songs and folk music and all of that. And I love it. I have such an appreciation for it, and I wouldn't know what that is if I wasn't here spending time doing that. So it is a tough balance. But one thing that I did see early on, when I came here, is I did see, everybody's got, they're writing their songs. Everybody's, got, there's motorcycle country, God country. There's like, everybody's got, Lainey Wilson's got bell bottom country. And, two of my idols are Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn. And Dolly Parton, one of the things that, and I just saw the Dolly musical, and one of the things that I feel both of these idols of mine have done so well is, Dolly wrote songs about being a girl from Tennessee. And even her play, the musical, when I went to go see it, a lot of it is, even though she is Dolly Parton now at her heart, the messaging is that she's always a girl from the mountains of Tennessee. And Loretta Lynn, same thing. She's a girl from Butcher Holler. Well, I'm a girl from South Louisiana, and I could never be anything else. And my dream and my goal is to be better, to always, now that I'm here in this city full of so many talented people, to continue to challenge myself to be better and to keep growing, but never ever lose the fact that I am a girl from South Louisiana, and all my art, all my music is always going to be rooted, and my heart is always going to be, no matter where I am, it's always going to be in South Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana. I'm always going to be right right there.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I can't go too long without being in Louisiana, because I love you, Tennessee, but y'all don't have no shrimp around here. So I got to go home to go get me my shrimp and my crawfish and all of that. So I'm a seafood loving girl.
There's a couple of great points that you just made in there. about the last point that you made about being true to who you are. I think is very true, and I think you do a great job of that. But there's another point that you made that I never really thought of before, but I really do think it's a great point. Is that the bluegrass music is sort of like the long lost cousin of the South Louisiana Cajun music. It is. It's
Absolutely.
a lot of it's upbeat, but the lyrics might be about hard times, but they're celebrating. They went through the hard times. There's a lot of similarities that
Right.
I'd never thought about before you said that.
No, totally. And when you look at the lineage and the history of music too, like I recently watched the Ken Burns. I'm such a nerd. I should just throw that out there. But I watched the Ken Burns country music. And first of all, country music in Louisiana, for anybody watching, if you don't know, Louisiana has been and played a major role, not just in music in general, but in country music, with the Louisiana Hayride. I mean, we've given the start to a lot of big stars out there, so like never ever forget that. But way early in the 1900s, when people were immigrating to America, and they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have the internet, they barely even had like radio. So like people in small communities all across the country really only had the people that were within walking distance. And so it's not that much different. People who lived up in the mountains in Tennessee, they'd get together and have parties on the weekend, much like Fado Does in Louisiana. And everybody would bring their instrument and they'd play their songs. And, someone's cousin would be like, I wrote this song this week. Y'all want to jam on it? And, Louisiana was kind of the same way in that, our folks, our Cajun folks down there in West Louisiana, they were an isolated community too. They were just far away enough from New Orleans that they weren't getting that influence, and so it became its own little bubble too. And again, those folks just had each other, and they were just writing songs about life. It just happens to be in a different language, but the spirit is 100% like it's there. And like you said, it's like cousins, long lost cousins of ours, and that the spirit is the same. And now we live in a world with social media where you can find people all the time and you can find music all the time, and that's such a beautiful thing, and that we can connect in that way. But yeah, I love that now that I'm here, that I'm able to appreciate that. And even though I'm not a bluegrass player, I have such an appreciation for the folks out here playing bluegrass music.
Yeah, that's great. That's a cool thought. I'm gonna make you stop talking about Louisiana for a minute and talk about yourself and your new song. Yeah. So
Well, thanks.
we're going back to Louisiana in the new song though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I was
be,
gonna say I can't stay away
before
from it for
Katrina.
too long because it's on topic with Louisiana. So
Yeah.
not to
So
scare anybody
tell
about
us.
how much time
Oh, I'm
has
sorry.
passed.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's the 20th anniversary of Katrina. So that's so crazy that that much time has already passed.
So I was going to ask you. So the song is called "Before Katrina,"
Yeah.
and it comes out on August 22nd.
Yes. Yeah. It does.
What's the story behind the song? What's the meaning of the song and all of that?
Absolutely. So, as someone who I went to high school at Mount Carmel Academy, whoop whoop, shout out, right there in Lakeview. So, I was in high school when Katrina happened, and it was just like such a funny thing. It's like one of the things that really stuck with me is that Katrina was in the aftermath of Katrina, and in the years after that, number one, the city and the whole Gulf Coast, not just the city of New Orleans, Biloxi, like the whole Gulf Coast, and all of our folks that live on from they along the coast, everybody's experienced hurricanes. So I know there's a lot of folks that can appreciate this, but I found that post Katrina, in the years afterwards, the first thing is that community became everything. Community and the idea of resilience, and that everybody had a story about Katrina, whether you lost your house, you lost a family member, maybe your entire life got displaced, you have family members that got displaced. Like everybody in the all along the coast has a Katrina story. And really the only way to get through it, those few years, a lot of the messaging I felt in that time, again, I was in high school, so I felt like I was really impressionable. But one thing that really stuck with me was resilience. And that, and I love the idea of resilience, because the word resilience acknowledges that something bad has happened, but the the emphasis on the word is that you got through it, right? And that's really your only option when things happen, because we all go through things like that in our life. So that's the first thing, is that you really had to rely on each other and on your community and everybody. We had to get through it together. But in the years afterwards, a lot of people, as people were rebuilding and things and life was moving on, I noticed a lot of folks, part of the vernacular in South Louisiana, people would talk about, and even now, people would be like, oh, well, I graduated right after Katrina. Or they'd be like, I had my first baby before Katrina, but I had my second child after Katrina. Well, I got engaged, before Katrina, and we got married, 2 years after Katrina, before Katrina, before, well, that was before Katrina, well, when my mom and them, before Katrina, people would talk about before Katrina and after Katrina. It was such an incredible thing that happened to our community that it actually became a timestamp of what,
Yeah.
like, people would talk about, like, before Katrina. Like, it wasn't just 2005, like, oh, I got married that year. No, before Katrina, because it became so on, like, our hearts. Like, it's a part of our story, each of us, our collective stories. And so I wanted to write a song with the idea of before Katrina, in that I wrote it with Bill DeLuigi, who is a great songwriter here in Nashville. I brought this idea to him, and I told him this exact story about before Katrina. And I said, what if we wrote it? Well, he had the great idea of writing it almost like a Jolene, where it's about somebody named Katrina, rather than writing a Katrina song, but writing it about heartbreak, because we all have been through heartbreak. That's something universal. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're from South Louisiana or you're from, Pittsburgh. Like, it doesn't matter. You're from, the other side of the world. Everybody's been through heartbreak. So we wanted to write a song about before Katrina. And the last verse is about, I'm so much stronger since Katrina hit town. And that's like the final verse of it. And so the point is that, yeah, before Katrina, like, all these things were so great, but since Katrina, I am so much stronger. And that's just my personal story, but the song is written about, it's about a person, but obviously, like, the idea came from this feeling of, like, yeah, after Katrina, we as people in my community, we each got stronger from our individual stories and together. And so I wanted to write that story in that song, and again, write it about, like, a person. And I love that I got to share it with Bill DeLuigi. He's such a great lyricist and a great storyteller. I love writing these really heartfelt songs with Bill. He's so great at pulling these stories out, and I knew he was the right person to bring this idea to, and I'm so glad that he worked on it with me. And I'm so proud of how the song came out, and I hope that when people listen, that they appreciate, the message, and that everybody, you'll get through whatever you've been through, that you're strong enough, you're stronger than you know.
I love that. That sounds great. That's I can't wait to hear that, how it all plays together. Um, yeah, that's true. The timestamp and all of that. That's another great point. You also just we just had a little writers retreat recently, and I can't remember who
Yeah.
was in the room with you. I know Alex, and I can't. It was a couple of y'all. It was a guy from New Orleans that I just met
That's
that day.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. We grew up, like, literally, like, it was so great. I met so many folks at that retreat that I was like, I was so excited. First of all, y'all, we had jambalaya, like, 10 out of 10. If nothing else happened that week, I was excited that I was going to eat some jambalaya.
You guys wrote a killer song that the first day you come out of the room, and you guys had a killer song.
We did have a killer song. Oh my, so many talented folks there. And, like, yeah, it was so fun. But yeah, it was, I feel like the best part of, like, well, not the best part, but I loved that we all talked, and some of us knew each other, some of us didn't even know each other. But as you got to talking to everybody, like, because Louisiana, it's like, regardless of what city you're from, like, everybody's got their little, like, thing. Well, do you know blah, blah, blah? And so we all got to talking about, whether it's like what high school you went to, or, like, whatever it is, like, everybody had, like, their things, and, like, we were talking about food. I loved it so much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we appreciate you being a part of it. That was such a great weekend. You guys have a. I can see you get. I can see you coming out to this song for years. Um, I could see you starting the show with this song. I think it's. I think it fits you perfect. So I
Oh,
won't get. I
thank you.
won't
I
give it
know
away,
we
but
can't give
I
it away
love that.
too much. We got to leave people, wanting
Yeah, I'm
more,
not
all
gonna
of you
give it
guys
away, but
watching.
I love it. Let's see. I know we're running short on time, but I did want to get a couple more in. We always ask questions for, like, up and coming artists, maybe back in Louisiana, to try to give some advice from artists who are doing the thing now. What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you early in your career?
Oh man. I
I
think
I ask the hard hitting questions over here, man.
I tell all my friends that are like maybe newer to music, like as someone who's been doing it now for over 20 years, I think one thing, obviously, like being true to yourself and being authentic is a big part of like me and who I am, and I would encourage everybody to do that. But I think also, to add on to that, I think one thing I would tell people, and I think this is true no matter whether it's music or what you do, no matter whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a whatever industry you work in, I think one thing is to be confident in who you are, like to take that one step further, confident in who you are and what you bring, but at the same time be humble and ready to learn. And I know that's such a balance, but I have friends sometimes who like maybe get a big writing session and they get nervous, and I'm like, no, I'm like, you got it for a reason. Believe in whatever that tiny reason is, whether it's that, maybe you're a killer player, maybe it's that you bring really unique ideas, maybe it's that the way you spin words, and like believe in that idea. Yes, you might look at these other people in the room with you and be like, whoa, like that person has so many cuts and so many credits, and like, who am I to be here? But don't let that get in the way of what you can achieve. And like, you have it in you because you got there in the first place. And that's something, like, especially being new in this city, that's like an idea that definitely, like, I've always carried with me, but over the last year it's been something I've really been holding on to, because I've had a lot of new experiences over the last year since I've been here in Nashville. And while there's a lot of things to grow and a lot of things to learn while I'm here, I also know who I am, and I know where I come from, and that gives me the confidence, to go into those rooms and be ready to learn, but also to offer up and be open to offering the things that I know I can bring to the table. And so, whether you just started playing music last week or you're somebody who's been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, I think that that's something that always like has been true for me, and I think that's the best piece of advice I could give anybody.
Yeah. One thing about New Orleans girls, they're gonna feel it. They're gonna make themselves at home wherever they go, right?
Well, you got that right. We'll
uh,
talk to anybody, and yes, and we'll make friends with anyone.
yeah, that's not a bad thing. I say that that's a good thing. Um, Let me say I wanted to squeeze in just a couple more real quick, but because you've played so many things, because you've had so many experiences, I wanted to ask you this question. You played Macy's. I mean, you and Alex did the Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade, which is a huge deal. That was awesome that you guys represented Louisiana. You've got Disney Channel stuff, international festivals. You've done all kind of stuff. Is there like a moment, like a just an unforgettable moment that you remember in any of that?
What's really funny is like, in I'm so bad. Like, I enjoy life. Like, I really do. This is gonna sound so bad, but like sometimes when I'm doing the stuff, like say Macy's, I feel like it's such a whirlwind. And I'm sure Alex and you've talked about this too, but it's such a whirlwind. And like, you go, you've got like a day of rehearsals and maybe like interviews and whatever it is, and then I had costume fittings and stuff. You're going through the motions of doing so much stuff, and it's like you get up at 3 in the morning and you're just like, okay, and then all of a sudden you got to bring the energy for 90 seconds, and you're like, yeah, I'm having a great time. I've been up since 3 this morning or whatever, and then you get done, and then honestly, like for example, like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, it wasn't until this past Thanksgiving I turned on the parade. I was at home in my pajamas, and I turned on the Macy's parade. And that's when it dawned on me a year later. I was like, holy crap. I was like, I was there. I did that. Like, I know exactly what's going on. All these folks who are doing it, and it hit me. And it's like, you have moments. So sometimes like the grind, is so much that you forget in the moment. But yeah, like sometimes you'll turn around and be like, wow, like I did do that. And on top of that, I think like kudos to Alex. He wrote a killer song that got picked up for that, and I think that that's awesome. And being able to share Boot Shake with such an awesome audience, I think as independent artists, I just want to say, like, every single one of those, achievements as an independent artist. I'm an independent artist. Alex is an independent artist. Like, that is big stuff. Like, that is, there are managers and labels and agents, trying to get those gigs for people. So, like, it's super awesome that I got to share it with another indie artist, that we got to do that together, got to do it for Louisiana. And I'm so proud of both of us that, like, we did that. Like, like, yeah, we made that happen. That's so killer.
Yeah, Alex was like, "Yeah, man, I might have went a little crazy, but I was like, I'm only going to ride through New York on a giant alligator with people screaming at us and cheering for us, probably one time in my life. So I'm just going to enjoy it."
Oh man, well, and the thing is leave it to Louisiana folks. Like, they said that we couldn't. First of all, the most hilarious thing is that they were like, they don't throw stuff in the parade there. So of course, leave it to Louisiana folks, since we couldn't throw stuff like Mardi Gras beads or whatever, because that's so us to, we've got the Mardi Gras. So instead, the float every couple of blocks would like have like a confetti explosion. I was like, leave it to Louisiana folks to find out, where is that line, and can we dance on it? Can we two-step on that
Yeah.
line?
Maybe not break the rule, but we're going to bend it as much as we can.
No, no, exactly. Actually, that same year, I actually also, after the Macy's, a couple months later, I actually did the Pasadena Rose Bowl parade with Sharon Ardoin. And it was so funny. It was actually several artists they were honoring, even, and Mr. Sid. He's the uncle of Nathan, and I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh my god, because it's been a long day. But Mr. Sid was sitting underneath me, and Mr. Sid, he was like 88 or 89 at the time. They had him on a chair, and he was so funny. Like, this was such a Louisiana man. So, the Rose Parade is made out of fresh flowers, the float and everything. He felt, because again, we couldn't throw stuff from the float because this wasn't a Mardi Gras parade. Like, this is in Pasadena, California. This man was taking flowers off the float and handing them to people. So by the time we got done, and it was a long parade, it was much longer than the Macy's. By the time we were done, and one of the beauty queens was standing there, and she kept being like, she was like, "Oh, Mr. Sid, you're gonna get us in trouble. You're gonna get us in trouble," because he's handing off the float, taking the flowers off the float. Because I was like, this is so Louisiana. I love it. Like, he couldn't help himself. He was like, well, and he said something at some point. He was like, well, these people, what did they come for? Like, I got to give them something. And so he was giving the flowers off the float, and it was hilarious, and I loved it. I loved it so much. It was bald in that area by the time we got done.
I'm sure he would tell you at his age, he's like, I'm not worried about getting in trouble. I'm
No,
going to have a
I
little
know.
fun.
I
I
loved
love
it though. It was such a great Louisiana. Like, I was like,
it.
yeah, again, just leave it to us to find that line, not break the rules, but where can we find that line?
That's right. Well, again, I appreciate you being a part of what we're doing here with Louisiana country music. I appreciate really your excitement about it too. You're not just a part of our team and a part of what we're doing, but you bring this enthusiasm that I think is infectious, and it makes us all more excited about what we're doing as ambassador. Really, we're all ambassadors for the state, and when we're trying to pave the way for the next people coming up. And so, thank you for being a part of that with us, and lending your
Thank
time and all
you.
that to us. Before we get out, where can people find you on internet, socials, and all of that?
Well, there's amandashaw.com. You can sign up for emails and stuff, but you can also find me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. You can stream my music anywhere you stream music, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all that good stuff. You can find me. But Instagram and Facebook, if you like pictures of chihuahuas, because I have a little chihuahua that I'm obsessed with, and I'm always posting pictures of her in my stories. So if you like that sort of thing, yeah, definitely follow me on social media.
Well, you've got some comments over here that I'm seeing. A lot of people who have been following you for a while. You'll have to
Hey,
go back
y'all.
through Facebook and Instagram and answer some of the comments because they're cheering you on over here. You got a lot of great
Ah,
fans.
thanks. Thanks so much. Thanks, y'all. And thank
So,
you so much, Ronnie, for everything that you're doing for Louisiana country music. You totally hit the nail on the head. It's about paving the path for the next generation of Louisiana, artists. We have so much great talent, and I'm just excited to be a part of everything that y'all are doing. I appreciate y'all having me on tonight, and all the events, writing retreats, all the things that you're doing to bring our community together is so exciting and so great.
well, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. I think we'll see you in September in Nashville.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks,
All right.
Ronnie.
See you. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.
Hey, look, I told you guys she brings the energy. That's a New Orleans girl, and they always do. Super talented, super sweet. We're glad to have her as part of this Louisiana country music community. She's an amazing musician and fiddle player. If you've heard her play, you already know that. But she's also a very genuine person, and we're glad to have her on our team, Miss Amanda Shaw. We hope you enjoyed the show tonight. If so, make sure to tune in every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Like I said, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we've got James Dupree next week. Again, make sure to follow, share, comment. Help us show the world what Louisiana country is all about. Check out our merch at our website, louisianacountrymusic.com. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. God bless our Louisiana folks out there, best fans in country music. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next Tuesday night right here at Louisiana Country Music Live.